Hey guys, Magnet here, and welcome to episode 7 of How to Be a Better Starcraft Player, the final episode in this series. This episode is meant to teach you the basics of army control, taking good engagements, and making sure every unit is doing their job. This is yet another part where I mention that even though army control is good to have, it takes a massive backseat to everything else we've talked about in this series. It should be treated as an afterthought only if you are already in good shape with your mechanics, macro, knowledge of strategy, and so on. But we came into this video wanting information about army control, so let's get into it. The first and biggest aspect of taking a good fight is making sure you have a good engagement angle. In general, this means making sure every unit is participating and doing their job in the battle. An easy way to assure this is to strive for a concave and to avoid a convex. A concave will ensure that every unit gets ideal positioning and can fire at an enemy unit at all times, while a convex will definitely do the opposite. If we look at this simple battle, we can see that an equal amount of units are in the fight, but half of one player's units are not fighting because they are in the convex of the battle. This alone can outright determine battles and even give victories to armies that are inferior. Note that we can set up concaves by abusing the map architecture if we limit the opponent to only one narrow engagement angle. Do your best to control these important parts of the map, and of course, don't attack into a choke like this unless you already have a much larger army. Besides getting the concave, you can take steps to prevent parts of an enemy army from fighting, and there are a lot of ways to do it. A simple trick is to understand the range differences between units, and kite away from enemy units to exploit your range advantage. You can do this by checking the ranges on units and trying to keep the enemy units out of their firing range. We can see that without kiting, the results would be much different. We can break the army participation down on an even more simple statement, and that is to make sure that every unit is doing their job during the battle. A lot of this can be managed by positioning units in order based on their firing range. For example, if I have zealots and stalkers, the zealots always need to be in front because they are the melee units. If they're stuck behind other units, then they're useless throughout a lot of the fight. Caster units will also need to be participating, and casters are often so powerful that they can outright win a battle. The best way to manage casters is to put them on their own hotkey and control them individually from the others, so that we can both easily access them for their spells and move them out of harm's way at the right times. Another big component of army control is making sure that your units are staying alive as long as possible. A unit that has 1 health does the exact same amount of damage as one that has 1,000 health. So keeping units alive is a very important component of winning micro-intensive battles. The most simple way to keep units alive is to move the wounded units back to force the enemy units to pick another target. Secondly, avoiding area of effect damage is very important, especially with a lot of low health units. The same can be said for units with splash, such as tanks or widow mines. Force them to waste their shots on unimportant targets before committing to a big engagement. Finally, when fighting your opponent, try to determine what the most important parts of their army are, and do your best to eliminate them before they deal too much damage. A good example is knowing when you can dive on units and accept the favorable trade to better benefit the rest of the battle. In this Protoss army, a huge majority of the damage output is in the Colossus, so if I dive on it, then we can see how easy it is to kill the rest of the army. If I don't do that, I lose the battle. Quite honestly, infinity APM could be put into a battle to assure it is going perfectly. Nobody will ever have perfect micro in a large engagement, so try to determine when you should put a lot of attention to micro and when you shouldn't. Micro is cool, but if it doesn't need to be done and you can put more valuable actions into doing stuff back at home, then be sure to prioritize accordingly. Now that you have a good feel for how an army should be controlled, that's about it for this series. Thanks for watching my videos on how to be a better Starcraft player. I have a ton more tutorials which are customized for each race. Feel free to check them out by clicking on the annotations below or checking the video description. Thanks for hanging out. I hope this helped, and I'll see you guys soon.